the arrival, the twin sons of Nexora, Prime cast golden light across endless fields of crystalline grain that swayed in the gentle breeze. Elder Vexthera stood at the observation deck of the capital spire, her 6 delicate arms folded in contemplation, as she watched the harvest machines move through the fields like graceful dancers. The Nexari had perfected the art of living in harmony with their world over 3,000 cycles, and every day brought new beauty to appreciate. A soft chime interrupted her meditation. Elder, came the voice of her aide, the observation stations. Report an unknown vessel approaching our system. Vexthera's crystalline eyes shifted to a deeper blue, a sign of curiosity among her people. Unknown, but we have catalogued every trading vessel and research ship in this sector. This one is different, Elder. It broadcasts a message in an unknown language, but our translators are working to decode it. Within moments, the translation came through the communication array, spoken in a voice that was somehow both alien and strangely familiar. Greetings, people of Nexura Prime. We are representatives of the United Earth Coalition. We come in peace, seeking dialogue and friendship among the stars. We request permission to establish diplomatic contact. The phrase "we come in peace" resonated through the council chambers as the Nexari leadership gathered to discuss this unprecedented event. In their entire recorded history, the Nexari had never encountered a species that felt the need to announce their peaceful intentions. Peace, after all, was simply the natural state of existence. Why would they need to declare peace? Asked Councillor Zenthara, her voice tinkling like wind chimes. Do their people normally arrive with violence? Elder Vexthera pondered this question as she granted the humans permission to land. The vessel that descended from the clouds was unlike anything in their databases. Sleek and white, it bore symbols that spoke of both advanced technology and artistic sensibility. As the airlock opened, the first human stepped onto Nexori soil. Ambassador Sarah Chen emerged with a warm smile, her dark hair catching the double sunlight. Behind her came a small team of diplomats and scientists, each carrying themselves with a dignity that impressed the Nexari observers. Dr. Elena Baskis, the team's xenobiologist, immediately began documenting the incredible biodiversity of the landing site, her eyes wide with genuine wonder. On behalf of humanity, Sarah said, her words automatically translated by the universal communicators, we thank you for this opportunity. Your world is more beautiful than our long-range scans could ever have shown. The initial meetings took place in the Garden of Reflection, a vast botanical preserve at the heart of the Nexari capital. As the humans and Nexari shared stories of their respective civilizations, a remarkable friendship began to bloom. The humans were fascinated by Nexari biotechnology and their philosophical approach to existence, while the Nexari found human creativity and emotional range endlessly intriguing. Dr. Vasquez spent hours with Nexari botanists, learning about their living buildings that grew from engineered seeds and their symbiotic relationships with their planet's ecosystem. Your entire civilization exists without disrupting natural balance, she marveled. On Earth, we've spent centuries learning to undo the damage we caused in our industrial youth. But that suggests your people can change and adapt, Elder Vexthara observed. That is a form of wisdom we have never needed to develop. As days turned into weeks, the cultural exchange deepened. Human musicians collaborated with Nexari sound weavers to create harmonies that neither species could have imagined alone. Nexari philosophers engaged in lengthy debates with human ethicists about the nature of progress and peace. Children of both species played games that transcended language barriers, their laughter echoing through the crystal spires. It was during a routine geological survey that Dr. Vasquez made the discovery that would change everything. Deep beneath Nexera, Prime's crust lay deposits of a mineral the humans had only theorized could exist: trilithium. Composite crystals that could revolutionize faster than light travel and energy production. This could transform space travel for every civilization in the galaxy, Sarah explained to the Nexari Council. These crystals could power ships to cross between distant star systems in days rather than months. And you would wish to extract these materials? Elder Vexthera asked, though without suspicion. The Nexari concept of property was communal. Resources belonged to those who could use them wisely. We would propose a partnership, Sarah replied. Humanity has the mining technology to extract the crystals without harming your ecosystem. In return, we would share the benefits with your people and establish Nexera Prime as a hub of galactic commerce and scientific advancement. The Council deliberated for 3 days, their decision-making process involving complex harmonics and shared meditation. When they emerged, Elder Vexthera's announcement was unanimous. We accept this partnership with our human friends. Let our peoples grow together among the stars. But as the celebration commenced and plans were made for the first mining operations, long-range sensors detected something that chilled even the warm-hearted Nexari to their core. A massive fleet was approaching the system, broadcasting no identification signals and responding to no communications. Captain Marcus Rodriguez, who had been quietly observing from the human diplomatic vessel, immediately recognized the profile of the approaching ships. His face grew grim as he pulled up the tactical display for Ambassador Chen. Korthok Warfleet, he said simply. 47 heavy cruisers, 12 battle carriers, and at least 200 support vessels. They're not here to talk. The Nexari had heard whispers of the Korthok from other trading species, a militaristic empire that expanded through conquest and subjugation. Entire peaceful civilizations had vanished after Korthok negotiations. We must evacuate immediately, Elder Vexthara declared, her crystalline features shifting to the deep purple of fear. Our people have no weapons, no defenses. We have lived in peace for millennia. With respect, Elder Sarah said, her diplomatic composure masking the steel in her voice. Running isn't always the answer. Sometimes peace must be defended. But we cannot fight them, Councillor Zenthara protested. Violence is not in our nature. We do not even have the concept of warfare. Sarah exchanged a meaningful look with Captain Rodriguez. Elder Vexthera, what if I told you that the humans who came here seeking friendship are also capable of being your shield? Our vessel, Aurora's Dawn, is more than it appears to be. As if summoned by her words, the elegant diplomatic ship began to transform. Weapon ports opened along its hull, revealing advanced particle beam arrays and missile launchers. Shield generators hummed to life, creating a shimmering barrier around the vessel. But more importantly, distress beacons began broadcasting on encrypted human military frequencies. You see, Sarah continued, when humanity says we come in peace, it's both a promise and a warning. We genuinely seek friendship and cooperation with all peaceful species, but we also understand that sometimes good must be defended from evil. Elder Vexthera's eyes cycled through several colors as she processed this revelation. You planned for the possibility of conflict. We hoped we'd never need to reveal this capability, Captain Rodriguez interjected, his military bearing now fully apparent. But humanity learned long ago that being prepared for war is often the best way to preserve peace. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding the gravity of the situation. It's fascinating, really. Humans developed the ability to be both nurturing and protective as a survival mechanism. We can create beautiful art and literature, form deep emotional bonds, and cooperate on massive scales. But when threatened, or when protecting others, we can become formidable opponents. As the Korthok fleet entered the outer system, their intentions became clear through intercepted communications. They had detected the trilithium deposits and intended to claim Nexora Prime as a resource world. Any inhabitants would be enslaved or eliminated, depending on their usefulness. Elder, Sarah said urgently, "My people need your permission to defend your world. We cannot act without your consent, but time is running short." The Nexari leader looked out at her peaceful world, then at the humans who had become such close friends in such a short time. For a species that had never known conflict, the decision should have been impossible. But Vextera had learned something about courage from her human friends. "We have seen your hearts," she said at last. "We know you truly come in peace. If you are willing to risk yourselves for our world, then yes, please help us protect the peace we have built." As the authorization was given, space around Nexora Prime began to shimmer as more human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. What had appeared to be a single diplomatic mission revealed itself as something far more sophisticated. Supply ships, medical vessels, and most surprisingly, a full battle group of human warships materialized as their stealth systems disengaged. The Korthok general, Grimjo by name and nature, observed the unfolding human deployment with amusement. "So the soft-skinned diplomats think to play at war. How many ships do they have? 20, 30? His tactical officer's voice carried a note of concern. "Sir, our sensors are detecting additional contacts. The count keeps rising." What neither the Korthok nor even the Nexari fully understood was that humanity's approach to galactic diplomacy was informed by thousands of years of hard-learned lessons. Every human diplomatic mission was backed by the full might of the United Earth Coalition, not as a threat, but as insurance that peaceful species could remain peaceful as the two fleets faced each other across the darkness of space. "Ambassador," Sarah Chen made one final transmission to the Korthok fleet. "General Grimjo, this is Ambassador Chen of the United Earth Coalition. Nexora Prime is under human protection. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. We strongly advise you to take it." The response came as expected. "Humans, you are outnumbered 3-1. Surrender now, and we may allow you to evacuate some of your people before we claim this world." Sarah's reply would later be studied in diplomatic academies across the galaxy. "General, you seem to have misunderstood our message. When humanity says we come in peace, we mean it absolutely. But we also mean that the peace we offer is the only alternative to something far worse for those who would threaten innocent lives." Asterisk, when peace becomes war, the space above Nexera Prime had become a study in contrasts. On one side, the Korthak war fleet spread across the system like a dark cloud, their vessels bristling with weapons designed for conquest and intimidation. On the other, the human fleet had arranged itself in a defensive formation that spoke of both protection and barely restrained power. General Grimjaw studied the tactical displays with growing irritation. His scouts had reported a simple diplomatic mission, but the humans had somehow materialized a significant fleet. Still, his forces outnumbered them substantially, and the Korthok had conquered dozens of systems with similar odds. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, The human vessels are ... unusual. Our sensors are having difficulty getting clear readings on their capabilities. Explain, Grimjar growled, his scarred features twisting into a frown. Their ships appear to be using some form of adaptive camouflage technology. Power signatures keep shifting. And we're detecting weapon systems that don't match any known configurations in our databases. Down on Nexara Prime, Elder Vexthara and her people had gathered in the Crystal Amphitheater to witness what would be their first experience of interstellar warfare. Dr. Vasquez remained with them, her scientific mind fascinated despite the dire circumstances. Your people fight differently than the stories suggest, Vexthera observed as she watched the human fleet movements on the tactical display. What do you mean? Alina asked. The Korthok move like predators, aggressive, direct, seeking to overwhelm with force. But your ships, she paused, searching for the right words. They move like gardeners. Alina smiled despite the tension. That's actually a beautiful way to put it. Humans learned warfare the hard way, but we also learned that the best victories come from understanding your environment completely and working with it rather than against it. In space, Captain Rodriguez was coordinating the defense from his command ship, the redesignated UEC Peacekeeper. His tactical display showed not just ship positions, but gravitational currents, asteroid fields, and the complex dance of Nexora Prime's 3 moons. All units, remember the doctrine he transmitted to his fleet. We're not here to prove we're tougher than they are. We're here to prove that attacking peaceful worlds is a losing proposition. The Korthak made the first move, as expected. A squadron of heavy cruisers accelerated toward the planet, intending to establish orbital dominance through overwhelming firepower. But as they approached, they found their path suddenly blocked by what appeared to be empty space. Contact, multiple human vessels decloaking directly ahead, the Korthok squadron leader reported, panic creeping into his voice. The human ships had been there all along, hidden by advanced stealth technology and positioned precisely where tactical doctrine suggested the enemy would attack. But rather than opening fire immediately, they broadcast a final warning. Korthok vessels, you are now in violation of Nexari territorial space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. General Grimjar's response was predictable. All units, open fire. Show these humans the price of defying the Korthok Empire. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. The Korthok fought as they always had, with overwhelming force and brutal directness. Their weapons were powerful, their armor thick, and their tactics proven across 100 conquered worlds. But the humans fought like humans, where the Korthok expected head-to-head slugging matches. They found human ships that danced through their formations, using the gravity wells of planets and moons to slingshot into unexpected attack angles. Where they anticipated straightforward exchanges of firepower, they encountered weapons that adapted and evolved mid-battle. Learning to penetrate Korthok defenses in real time, Captain Rodriguez's flagship demonstrated the principle perfectly. As Korthok battlecruisers closed for what should have been a decisive engagement, the Peacekeeper's hull began to reconfigure itself. Armor plating shifted to deflect incoming fire at optimal angles, while weapon ports relocated to maintain clear firing solutions even as the ship maneuvered through a complex 3-dimensional spiral. How are they doing that? Grimjar demanded, watching his supposedly superior forces struggle against an enemy that refused to fight by conventional rules. Sir, our analysts believe they're using some form of programmable matter technology combined with artificial intelligence tactical systems. Their ships are essentially rebuilding themselves during combat to counter our specific attack patterns. But the most unsettling aspect of the human fighting style wasn't their technology, it was their psychology. Korthok warriors were used to enemies who fought either out of desperation or bloodlust. The humans fought with something far more dangerous. Cold, calculated determination backed by genuine moral conviction. When a damaged Korthok destroyer began venting atmosphere, human rescue ships immediately moved to assist, even in the middle of the battle. When Korthok fighters found themselves outmatched and attempted to surrender, they were escorted to safe zones rather than destroyed. The humans were fighting not to prove their superiority, but to restore peace, and that made them infinitely more dangerous than any conqueror. The turning point came when General Grimjoe decided to target Nexora Prime directly. If he couldn't defeat the human fleet in space, he would force them to choose between protecting the planet and maintaining their defensive positions. A squadron of Korthok bombers broke from the main engagement and dove toward the planet's surface. Their target, the capital city where millions of Nexari civilians sheltered. But the humans had anticipated even this move. As the bombers entered the atmosphere, they found themselves flying through what appeared to be empty errantile human fighter. Craft materialized around them like deadly flowers blooming in vacuum. The fighters had been there all along, their pilots breathing recycled air and waiting in perfect silence for exactly this moment. The engagement over Nexera Prime's capital lasted less than 5 minutes. When it was over, not a single Korthok bomber had reached its target, and the human fighters had already vanished back into their cloak of invisibility. Dr. Vasquez, watching from the ground, whispered in amazement, "They're not just protecting us. They're making a statement to every potential aggressor in the galaxy." Elder Vextera's crystalline features shifted to a color that had no direct translation, a mixture of awe, gratitude, and something approaching understanding of humanity's true nature. They are showing that peace is not weakness, but a choice, made by those strong enough to enforce it. In space, the battle had reached its inevitable conclusion. The Korthok fleet, designed to terrorize defenseless worlds, found itself systematically outmaneuvered, outfought, and demoralized by an enemy that turned every one of their strengths into a weakness. Human ships used the Korthok's own aggressive nature against them, drawing them into traps and ambushes with feints and tactical withdrawals. But perhaps the most devastating blow to Korthok morale came when General Grimjoe realized that the humans weren't trying to destroy his fleet, they were hurting it. Every engagement, every maneuver, every tactical decision had been carefully calculated to force the Korthok forces into a specific position relative to the system's edge. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with barely concealed fear, "we're being driven toward the hyperspace limit. If we continue on this heading, we'll have no choice but to retreat or face complete encirclement." Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the communication channels, calm and professional. "General Grimjoe, your fleet is now positioned at the edge of Nexari space. You have a choice to make. You can order your forces to withdraw peacefully, and no further harm will come to them. Or you can continue this engagement and discover exactly why peaceful species across the galaxy sleep, safely knowing that humanity patrols the stars." The general's response was silence. For the first time in his career, he found himself completely outmatched, not by superior force, but by superior thinking. Every tactical doctrine he knew suggested that the humans should have met his aggression with equal aggression. Instead, they had fought like master chess players, thinking not just one move ahead, but dozens. Finally, he activated his fleet communications. "All units, withdraw to hyperspace. The humans can keep their pet world. As the Korthok fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, the space around Nexera Prime slowly returned to peaceful silence. The human fleet began to decloak fully, revealing the true scope of the defensive force that had been hidden among them all along. Ambassador Sarah Chen's voice carried across both space and the planet's surface. People of Nexera Prime, the threat has passed. Your world remains free, and your peace has been preserved. In the crystal amphitheater, Elder Vexthera stood before her people and the humans who had risked everything to protect them. We have learned something today about the nature of true peace, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. We thought peace was simply the absence of conflict, but our human friends have shown us that real peace is something that must sometimes be defended. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her eyes bright with emotion. Elder, what you had here was always preciouser, civilization that never needed to learn violence. What happened today doesn't change that. We just made sure you'll never have to. Captain Rodriguez, still in his command uniform, joined them on the planet's surface. When humanity first reached for the stars, we made a promise to ourselves and to any peaceful species we might encounter. That promise was simple. We come in peace. But what we've learned is that those words carry weight only when spoken by those strong enough to defend peace when it's threatened, as the three species human, Nixari, and even the departed Korthoquid later come to understand. This battle represented something new in galactic politics. For the first time, a major power had fought not for conquest or resources or revenge, but purely to preserve another species' right to live in peace. The trilithium mining operations would proceed as planned, but now under the protection of permanent human peacekeeping forces. Nexera Prime would indeed become a hub of galactic commerce, but more importantly, it would become a symbol of something the galaxy had never seen before. The idea that civilization's highest achievement wasn't the power to destroy, but the wisdom to protect. Years later, when diplomatic historians studied the Battle of Nexera Prime, they would identify it as the moment when humanity's true message to the galaxy became clear. We come in peace wasn't just a greeting, it was both a promise to those who sought friendship and a warning to those who would threaten the innocent. And in the crystal spires of Nexera Prime, where human and Nexari children now played together under the light of twin suns, peace continued to grow stronger now, because it was no longer just the absence of war, but a positive force defended by those who understood its true value. The warning had been given and heard across the galaxy. Humanity had come in peace, and they intended to keep it that way.